Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back. It is exactly 9:21 a.m. And of course, this is News and Views on Salam Media, 18th of July 2023. But the date, 18th of July, is a very, very important date in the lives of South Africans. This is the day we reflect on Madiba's enduring legacy. And I'm so pleased to have his grandson on the show with us this morning. I've wanted to talk to him forever. And Alhamdulillah, finally, we have the opportunity to hook up with him. He is, of course, Chief Mandla Mandela. And then another amazing person from a very amazing organization is none other than Hafiz Hassan Choonara, Regional Director of Africa Muslim Agency. Assalamu alaikum to both of you. And of course, there's a reason why we have both of you on the show together this morning. Welcome. I think, Chief, you go first.
Yes, salam alaikum to everyone at Salam Media. We, as the Royal House of Mandela and the Mvezo Traditional Council, are proud today as we celebrate July 18, the Nelson Mandela International Day, which is honoring Nelson Mandela's birthday. If he were alive, he would be turning 105 years old today.
Ooh.
But we do know that the United Nations General Assembly coined this day as the Nelson Mandela International Day in honor of the 67 years Madiba attributed to serving humanity, and therefore making a global call for people around the world to dedicate 67 minutes on this day doing good in their communities in whatever small ways you can, in contributing in bettering the world that we live in. We are proud, therefore, today to be supported and partnering with Africa Muslim Agency in ensuring that we are able to distribute 105 food parcels to 5 different traditional councils in the surroundings of Madiba's birthplace in Mvezo and Qunu. We have already visited 2 areas that is being Estebe under Chief Kolom Tikaka, where we distributed 105 blankets and food parcels. We also went to a place where Madiba grew up in Mkagezweni under the chieftainess Nobulali Mtikaka, where we also distributed 105 food parcels as well as blankets. Today, we are doing 3 areas which we are utilizing all those areas in Madiba's home in Qunu, where we will be distributing 315 food parcels as well as blankets to the surrounding areas of Qunu, together with our friends and partners from Africa Muslim Agency.
Let's bring our friends from AMA into the picture this morning. Always a pleasure to talk with you, Hafiz Hassan Choonara. What does this collaboration mean for AMA? I mean, it's huge, and you are now directly aligned with this legacy of one of the greatest men that made changes here in South Africa, and that, of course, is Madiba.
Absolutely. Shukran for having us on your show, Sister Juliari, and honored to be in the Eastern Cape, currently in Mthatha, with John Sizwe, the brother of Chief Zoli Vilile. We in Mthatha going to a program here and then heading back to the Mandela home where we were this morning. And like Chief Zoli Vilile mentioned, we will be going to 3 areas or distributing over 300 hampers and blankets. Coming to your question, yes, it's certainly an honor for Africa Muslims Agency to work closely with the Mandela family for a number of years now, undertaking various projects. One is obviously the relief in terms of responding to the hour of need of food baskets and hampers and blankets, but also empowering young girls who are the future leaders of tomorrow in a mentorship program and looking at sustainable projects of building boreholes. We know Eastern Cape is amongst one of the poorest communities, amongst one of the poorest provinces in the country, with many outlying village areas. in need of clean drinking water. And already we have embarked on that campaign that's building sustainable boreholes with the Chief Mandela and his family in identifying areas and identifying key areas that we can rehabilitate and bring sustainability to this part of the world. So yes, it's certainly an honor of African Muslims Agency to continue working with the Mandela family, with Chief Jalibulila and his family, and the people here in Mvezo and Kunu and in this part of the world, to continue uplifting communities like that person, that man, Nelson Mandela. As we commemorate Nelson Mandela Day, he played a similar role, or even much bigger role, in uplifting people from this part of the world and beyond the borders of the Eastern Cape as well as South Africa.
Alhamdulillah. Chief Mandla Mandela, what does this day mean for you and your family? And when we talk about 67 minutes and when we talk about the 18th of July, it's not just this one day. We know that the work starts way, way, way in advance. You probably, as soon as today is over, you're going to start preparing for next year, I presume. Let's talk about what else you're involved in upkeeping the legacy of your dear late grandfather?
Well, as I said, that Madiba dedicated 67 years of his life serving humanity. And in this regard, the United Nations has made a global call for all peoples around the world to make their own contribution in the areas they live in. And therefore, Madiba's name has always been associated with the poorest of the poor and the most vulnerable in society. And for us as a family, we regard every day to be a Mandela Day. We have to be able to go into our communities and fight the social ills that we are experiencing in the deep rural areas of the Eastern Cape, like many in South Africa, as well as in the African continent. Rural areas are still without basic amenities such as access to clean drinkable water, proper sanitation, and so on. And therefore, ours is continuously to see as to how we can better the lives of people in rural communities. We have been visiting some of the families due to the heavy rains that we have had, who have lost their rondavels and lost their mud huts. To see as to how we can be able to assist in renovating and building those houses. But we've also been to flood-stricken areas, in areas such as Port St. John's, in the constituency that I serve in, where we have visited traditional leaders there and looked at the plight of their people and how we can be able to assist in alleviating some of the challenges that the people are experiencing there. So for us, it has always been great to have the friends and the partnerships that we enjoy as a family with the likes of Africa Muslim Agency. And we continue to say to all citizenry, do whatever you can in the smallest ways that you can in bettering the lives of the ordinary citizens. You can do something as little as taking street kids in your area out for a lunch, cooking a meal for them, and ensuring that they've had a proper meal for the day. You can provide blankets for those that are going through this winter without proper warm covers. And that would go to a meaningful contribution into their plight. And this is why we say that this day, July 18, is a real call to activism. Madiba, from his young age, when during his youth, he contributed as an activist in mobilizing our people right across the landscape of our country into fighting the oppressive regime of the past. Today, we need to fight the challenges that our people are facing today. One of the glaring issues is the corruption that we face in our country today. What can we do as citizens to be able to mobilize our communities and create a social cohesion that will withstand that and fight against these social ills? We are losing a lot of money towards corruption where it could be better used into uplifting the lives of our people.
Undoubtedly, the sentiments that you've just shared with me now regarding corruption in the country, we know that these crooked politicians has brought the country onto, to its knees, and we have, as citizens, responsible citizens, we need to do everything possible to fight corruption in every which way we can. How do you suppose the great late Nelson Mandela would have responded to our current situation in the country, the large scale corruption that is happening around us? What do you believe your grandfather would say to all of this?
I think, first of all, we must not see corruption to only be rooted within politicians. It's become a societal issue. Right
Absolutely.
there in Cape Town, it's not politicians that are corrupt, but gangsterism is rife. Business people are forced to paying protection fees to these gangsters. And therefore, it has become a real societal issue right across the landscape of our country. We are seeing businesses that are being forced to pay protection fees because of their lives being threatened. And they are extorted of monies by vigilantes out there. And therefore, for us, we need to make a call to communities in particular to come closer to one another, to form policing forums that will be able to unite as a community and as a people to ensure that they can chase away these gangsterism that are coming into our communities. I live in the rural parts of South Africa in Mvezo, where drugs that have never been a problem in our community. There's a sudden influx today where our young people are now prone to alcohol abuse and substance abuse. And we are finding teenage pregnancy for girls as young as 9 years old, 14 years old, between that age gap. And these are the social ills that we need to mobilize society into fighting. But the fiscal that we hear from our government could be better utilized into finding itself deep to our rural areas and to where it's much needed the most, into our townships where people are living without the securities that they need.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you regarding ethical leadership, which obviously is synonymous with your grandfather. But let's go back to Hafiz Hassan Choonara. And obviously, what Chief Mandela has just outlined now creates a huge burden on organizations like yourselves, because more and more people are falling by the wayside. There aren't enough jobs to go around. There's issues around healthcare. There's issues around neglected children. All of those issues impact, and it just means that AMA and other such organizations have to work that much harder to put food on the table for people.
Absolutely. One is putting food on the table, also creating programs of sustainability, skills development programs, to empower the youth. We're talking about, and the chief correctly mentioned, and the sad state of children as young as 9 falling pregnant, and as a result, many of them would fall out of school and not get a chance at education. What happens to the generational cycle of growing that family? It falls by the wayside, and you perhaps that individual may find workplace as as a domestic or not what they really wanted to achieve. And so yes, pressure is put on organizations to create empowerment projects, sustainable projects, vocational projects, to empower the youth who've been affected by the social ills, like the chief has correctly mentioned. And that's why the mentorship program for the youth is very, very important. And like we are working with the chief, empowering 30 young girls, mentoring them, guiding them, having influential individuals who've excelled in different spheres of life, coming and sharing their stories and giving that opening the doors of having a dream and that opportunity to go and excel. And to see that the world is bigger out there and there's much more to it. So yes, there are pressures and organizations like ourselves to continue empowering the youth in terms of not just one being proactive in mentoring and guiding, but also dealing with the challenges of then assisting in various forms of opening doors where they may excel in life. Even making a mistake in life at a young age does not mean that your life has to be all doom and gloom, that you have to suffer for the rest of your life. No, people make mistakes. But your past is not your future. You made a mistake, but there's a forgiving aspect in there, and then helping that individual to then develop and grow and still achieve in life is what we focus on.
Alhamdulillah, and I presume that AMA does have such programs to get troubled youth off street corners, maybe get them into mentorship programs. And as you said, your mistake doesn't determine your past mistakes, doesn't determine your future. There is hope, there is help, and seek it out and make a future for yourself. So I presume there are such programs running by AMA.
Absolutely. African Muslims Agency networks and synergizes with over 250 community-based organizations across South Africa, individuals, organizations who are the footprint, who are on the ground, who know the challenges, who know the social ills, who know the peer pressure situation that children are faced, who know the
Wow.
families that I need, like you are doing here in the Eastern Cape with the Chief Mandla, who Chief and Mandela and his family know the people, they know the individuals, they know the challenges faced, and it just makes sense for an organization like AMA to tap into that resource, that footprint on the ground, and enhance what's already being done and support that initiatives and support the drive. And obviously we need the donor support to continue so we can help Chief Mandla and many other organizations we work with across South Africa to empower the youth, because ultimately they are the future leaders of this country and the future leaders of their families and the future leaders of themselves tomorrow.
Chief Mandla Mandela, back to you. Earlier on, I made a comment about crooked or corrupt politicians. You indicated that it's not only politicians that are corrupt, it's right across society. But it's also about ethical leadership, is it not? Your grandfather was the quintessential example of what ethical leadership is all about. And we're not seeing much of that in this day and age. How do we turn that around? We need to bring back the spirit of Madiba into our lives, into our societies. How do you believe we can do that?
I think it's really a need for us to look back at what that generation was made of. Madiba was one of many of his generation that were highly educated, that were truly grounded in the principle of serving our people. Today, you have leaders that are chasing positions, leaders that are self-serving, and monies that are ending up in their own pockets without truly looking at doing the work and serving our communities. It also goes into us as citizenry. What have we been doing to turn the tide? And I often make examples by institutions such as UWC, which was the real hub of instilling that youth pride and excellence in the Western Cape, where we were able to fine-tune the quality of leaders that came out of the Western Cape. And therefore, we need to go back to that. We need to look into where are these young people that are truly grounded on serving our people, but also educated people. We have too many leaders in our structures that don't even have a matric certificate, yet they are in decision-making portfolios and therefore are prone to making the wrong decisions. And I think that we need, as South Africans, to start going on a renewal or a renewal campaign where we find the new caliber of leaders that we can be able to groom, we can be able to see into offices. For example, as a member of parliament, I went to Malawi with a delegation of parliamentarians. And I can submit myself that as a Rhodes graduate with a BA degree and a postgrad diploma in international relations. I was found wanting when we were in Malawi because a standard qualification in the Malawian parliament was masters. Many of the chairpersons in the Malawian parliament are holding PhDs. And this is the caliber of people that we ourselves in South Africa need to groom to ensuring that we safeguard the future of the next generation.
Well, our education department is really wanting, is it not? It seems as if we need to do a total overhaul of our Department of Education, the healthcare system. I think just right across the board. If we need this country to prosper as per the great Nelson Mandela's dream and many of his counterparts back in the day, then there's a lot of hard work that still needs to go into making his dreams and their dreams a reality. Back to you, Hassan Choonara. In closing, what else can you tell us on this day, the 18th of July, Nelson Mandela's birthday, when each and every South African should be doing something to commemorate his greatness, to commemorate his legacy? 67 minutes of something that's going to have a lasting impression on the lives of fellow South Africans. What do you believe that could and should be?
Well, like the Chief Mandela mentioned earlier, it's Mandela Day is every day, and being a humanitarian is every day. Humanitarians are not, a specific day. We use this day to commemorate the 67 years Nelson Mandela used in serving humanity, and use an opportunity to further enhance what's already been done on a daily basis in terms of assisting localities, communities, towns, suburbs, irrespective of race, color, religion, ethnic background, taking people out of the difficult situation. And today, the African Muslim Agency teams here in the Eastern Cape with Chief Mandela assisting many families. But likewise, there are teams across the country and across the globe that are undertaking similar efforts, but not just today. Every day. Today is a day we set to highlight the challenges that are faced by many communities, and we highlight the generosity of donors that is making a difference. But we humbly ask the donors to continue supporting the work so we continue supporting and uplifting and empowering many families across the globe. It's certainly an honor and a pleasure to be here in the Eastern Cape with the Mandela family and with the brother of Chief Mandla Mandela, John Sizwe Mandela, with us at the moment in Mthatha, and we'll be heading back to Kunu, to the Mandela homestead in a short while. So on behalf of African Muslim Agency, we thank the Mandela family for hosting us, and we look forward to working along in the future to uplift many families.
Inshallah, let's cross over to Chief Mandla Mandela for his final words on Nelson Mandela Day. It's not only the 18th of July, the entire month of July is the month where we commemorate this amazing man. What do you want to leave us with today, Chief Mandla Mandela? And do you, as a parliamentarian, have hope for the country? Can we turn things around? Is there hope?
There's certainly hope in this beloved country of ours, particularly when we turn our eyes to young people. We are a country with a youth-based population, and I think about 70% of our population is young people. And therefore, it tells you that in terms of the economy, we can be able to turn the tide, but we have to work smart. We have to do the right things. in order to ensure that we create the much needed jobs for those young people. We are sitting today with almost 32% of unemployment rate, which we have to be constantly fighting to win the ground and create the much needed jobs. But I think the most important thing is to ask ourselves in our communities, we are often quick to look at the department. The entire educational system needs to be overhauled. The department is failing us. But when last did you take a visit to the school just next door to your house, just in your community? When last did you go and make a contribution in ensuring that the affairs of the school are in order, that the teachers are teaching at the right time and are teaching the right things to our children? And this is important for us to be visible, for us to be active participants in this new fight that we are facing. If we are ever to turn the tide around, we have to be active. We have to come out of our safety zones. Many of us are happy to live in our comforts of our high raised walls in our big houses, while many people are suffering outside our doorsteps. And I think we can do much more if we reach out to those communities. And I have enjoyed living here in the rural parts of the Eastern Cape and working with these rural communities. And I think we can do much more in the areas we are in. And therefore, the simple message today would to send out a global call, not only in our country, in the SADC region, but in the African continent and the broader global community, that let us emulate the Madiba's legacy by ensuring that we serve our communities. We become the voice for the voiceless and the most vulnerable in society. Thank you.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. To both of you, very quickly, Chief Mandla Mandela, one of your most favorite memories of your dear grandfather, what would that be?
Well, there's many memories of my grandfather, but I think for one of today's purposes, Madiba would always tell us stories as his grandchildren. And I think one befitting today's interview would be that on one of the cold nights after his meetings in Cape Town, he came out to go to his house in Bishop Court and ran into street kids. And these street kids came to greet him, and he wondered as to where were these kids coming from at that late hours of the night. And when he realized that these were street kids, he asked them, why are you here? They say, we've been waiting to see you. We've been waiting to come and greet you.
Wow.
He says, why? They say that because you love us. And then he was stuck about that. And then he says, what makes you think I love you? And then many of the kids were saying, now we are able to access grants. Now we are able to access food because of your contributions. And it was from that night that Madiba dedicated his presidency salary to establishing the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. He never drew a salary from government, but that money was utilized in establishing the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. And I think this has been the lessons for us of how he was such a selfless leader that always put his people first, and in particular, children, the future generation and leaders of our country.
Subhanallah, what a beautiful story. Let's all emulate that so that this country can indeed become great again. To both of you, Assalamu alaikum. Keep up the amazing work. And inshallah, till the next time, go well and Khuda Hafiz.
Shukran. Alaikum salam.
9:50 exactly, news and views on Salam Media. That was obviously Hassan Choonara and Chief Mandla Mandela reflecting on Madiba's enduring legacy on this day, the 18th of July. What are you going to be doing as far as your 67 minutes of making a difference to the country is concerned? In a minute or two, we'll be talking with our next guest on the final interview of the show this morning.